They're going to be 40-14 at the All-Star break, and no one's going to remember any of it. No, and the Derek White thing is it's the same. It's a little bit the same thing. Like Jaylen Brown would have been the 7th wing scorer on Team USA, and so maybe having 2 winning play don't need the ball guys and Derek White and Drew Holiday, both of whom were pretty good for Team USA in that role. Like, we're not just assembling the 12 best players, we're trying to put together the best team. And sometimes that means that guys who aren't quote unquote as good but fit roles make more sense. Like, I mean, to get back to where we started, I don't think that if the Knicks traded Julius Randle for center, Julius Randle's probably going to be a better player than whoever they trade him for. I think that as long as it's someone pretty good, on balance, it would make the Knicks a better team, even if on just sort of raw stack up the talent, it didn't. And that's the amazing thing about basketball is that it's not like baseball where you just add you add the WRC plus or whatever together and that's how good your team is. It's guys play differently in different spots. A guy, Mikal Bridges, is not a 1 option, but he's a better number 3 option, number 4 option who's going to play a lot of defense and spot up than a lot of guys who are like, let's put it this way. Would the Suns rather have Bradley Beal or Mikal Bridges right now?
Oh, you know the answer to that. Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
100%. It's not even an argument. And and just to kind of jump on you back on that. And I know what you're saying. They'll be 40-14 and the Celtics, but there has been a lot of things said. And I never liked Jaylen Brown, even when he was drafted. I like him even more because he's the bad guy of the NBA now. Everybody don't like him. And everybody's got to say, he's taking shots at a kid that can't defend himself. LeBron James hasn't even said anything. This is funny. To me. I like it.
Let's be fair here. He was caught like talking to someone courtside. He wasn't doing an interview. He was saying something courtside that there were a lot of people in Las Vegas at Summer League saying. Now, I don't know. I don't think that's fair because a lot of second round rookies don't look very good at Summer League. But the level of it's not like he went out there and took shots. I mean, we're doing like silent lip reading of him, talking courtside. That's kind of not fair.
One of them was, Fish was mentioning in the comment section. One of them was Angel Reese, so it's going to go viral in that sense. And then Jaylen Brown taking shots at Bronny James, the talk of the summer.
Come on, it's funny, man. And Jaylen Brown, it's what he is. And Jaylen Brown likes to cause controversy. If anybody doesn't know who Jaylen Brown is, I think you'll know now that he is not one that's going to hold back on what he says. He's going to say what he feels, and he's not going to hold back. So
never has been.
No, and I respect him for that. That's what I've become a fan of Jaylen Brown. I hate the Celtics, and I'm a Jayson Tatum fan because he played for Duke, and I'm a Duke fan. But, of course, I was never a Jaylen Brown fan, but I like that he become the bad guy. Him and Joel Embiid are and Draymond Green and Brooks are 4 guys that people just can't stand. So I love it. I love when there's bad guys in the game.
You need a good heel.
Yes.
You need a good heel. Yeah.
You do. And I think Jaylen Brown brings that to the forefront. I think he is a good heel. I think he says what he feels, and he goes out there and he puts up the numbers. So, and he's got something to brag about now. He is an MVP in the finals, and he is an NBA champion. So he pretty much is telling you to kiss his ass.
He also, I mean, we have to give him a lot of credit. Also, he's someone who, after the disappointment of last year's playoffs for the Celtics, and he's talked about this, he went back and said, I need to get better. And he did. He's never going to be confused for, a Meadowlark Lemon as a ball handler, but he improved a great deal as a ball handler. And his improvements were material and were why he was the best player across the last 2 rounds of the playoffs. And so, someone especially who reaches the level that he does gets a playoff disappointment. And it's like, we weren't unlucky. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. I need to be better. And I respect that, like, just from a competitive standpoint. And frankly, there's probably some players at the upper echelons of the NBA who would do well to take that lesson.
So some of the stuff that you've mentioned, and also within your books, and also with your the data science you do now with the Score and all the other companies you work with, talk about that and how it's impacted each season from this season to comparing to other seasons as well. Some of those concepts that are brought up in that.
Oh boy, where do you want me to start? I mean, the biggest thing about is talking about the book is just is how we got where we are in the NBA in terms of the pace and space and 3-pointers, and it's not just an analytically bent, but it was also some rule changes and some style changes. And you mentioned Kevin Garnett. Like, a big part of the reason we are now is there was a generation of big men, Kevin Garnett and Lamar Odom and Duncan to a little extent, Dirk Nowitzki, who for the first time were really allowed to play facing the basket. And the way that changed the dimensions of the court, instead of, your power forward or your center running down to the block, sticking their hand up in the air saying, throwing me the ball, they're spaced out facing the basket. And that just opens up, different concepts. The most valuable real estate on the court, you can say whatever you want about, 3-point arc and stuff like that. The most valuable area in the court is still the area right around the rim. Dunks and free throws are still the best shots in the game. But instead of having, a big, with very few players that are necessarily back to the basket giants, the way that, a Shaquille O'Neal or even like I think Akeem Olajuwon were, not having that guy just stationed down there just brings different ways to attack. And it's not, we're standing in this space, we're clearing this space out to attack into it. And I think that's as much of a driving force as to where we've gotten to. Yes, give me some dream shake. Thank you. That's as much a part of how we've gotten to where we are in the NBA as any. That it's the Pied Piper of it was Mike D'Antoni, and he became sort of an analytics Pied Piper to a degree, but he didn't math his way to the style he wanted to play. He based it on his experience and his understanding of the game. Mike Budenholzer has played a very analytically friendly style. I can speak from personal experience that while he is numerate and understands the concepts, he's not coming at it from I have a calculator and this is how we're going to play fashion. But you can reach the same conclusions about how we, especially with, given personnel on the floor, Bud's, big, he was as big a force as anyone behind bringing in Brook Lopez to the Bucks, because, all right, we want a center to play alongside Giannis, but we don't want a center to be in his way. So we need a guy who can protect the rim and shoot threes. That guy. And, I wrote about this in the book, and I've talked about it before. We liked the signing. We thought it was a good signing. And then we got tremendously lucky with how good Brook Lopez has been, especially defensively over his Milwaukee tenure. But Bud was a big force behind wanting to play that way, because he was thinking about, all right, I've got this 6'11" freight train. How do I maximize him? And he started from there, and it was space this 7-foot guy can also protect the rim, do some of the dirty work, but can also stand at 28 feet from the basket and clear the basket out for this guy to go dunk on everybody.
We are talking to the Score NBA data science manager, Seth Anchorage Man part now. Seth, we had Tim Hardaway on the show last week, and we brought up Anthony Edwards.
Junior or senior?
Senior.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway, Mr. Hall of Famer himself. He's been on the show, and we asked him his thoughts to Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards said that Michael Jordan was the only skilled player in the 90s. Tim Hardaway took that to the heart, and he just dropped the hammer on Anthony Edwards and how he felt about what he was saying. He took shots at JJ Redick. I mean, JJ Redick wouldn't have been on any team in the NBA in the 90s. He'd be 11th or 12th guy off the bench because he couldn't ball handle. He couldn't dribble. He said Anthony Edwards should not be speaking. If he doesn't know what he's talking about, he shouldn't be speaking. Your thoughts to Anthony Edwards taking shots at the skilled talent in the 90s?
So in Anthony Edwards' defense, I think we all remember during the early days of the pandemic when The Last Dance came out.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're watching all the highlights of those Bulls games. And there's exactly two guys on the court who you would look at that and say, oh, that looks like a guy who plays in the NBA today. And it was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. So I think Anthony Edwards is overstating it. But I think that the level of athleticism and physical demands, they're different today, certainly. Like there's not the cheap shotting necessarily, and probably less of the interior wrestling than there was then. But in terms of the running up and down collisions and jumping through over around people, it's just a massively different game than it was in the 90s. Now, that's not to say that a lot of those players couldn't have adapted. I think Tim Hardaway would have been perfectly at home in the modern game. You're telling me a guy who can break you down off the dribble, run pick and roll, and shoot pull up threes wouldn't have a place in today's NBA?
Oh, he would be great.
Yeah. I mean, especially like you forget like your memory as a New Yorker is probably more of his Heat days after he kind of had some of the knee issues. Yeah, but especially in Golden State, like he was like Ja Morant tough to stay in front of with that like double crossover, the UTEP two-step crossover. Mm-hmm. Like he was one of the hardest guys in the league to keep in front of you. And that was in a league where you were allowed to hand check. So I think Tim Hardaway would be a guy who would be just fine in today's NBA.
I think
it might even be better.
Yeah, I think he was just butthurt. I mean, he has every right to be butthurt.
Yeah,
because of Anthony Edwards speaking. He pretty much threw everybody under the bus but Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan came out recently, I think a couple of months ago, when they were talking about American basketball, and he says it's not what it used to be. The AAU is not really driving players to want to play basketball anymore. There's other games. There's football. Everybody wants to be Tom Brady. Everybody wants to be like one of these big time quarterbacks, the Patrick Mahomes. He says it's not what it used to be. And he said that American basketball needs to figure out how to keep these kids playing the game of basketball. And he says if it doesn't, internationally, it's going to take over, and we're not going to be the dominant force that we used to be. So that's what Michael Jordan said.
I've had people tell me who are in the grassroots scene much more than I am. A friend of mine describes it as academy brain, where a lot of guys get in these programs and their technical skill level is higher than it's ever been because they've got all these great drills, but kids don't. I grew up playing pickup, and that's how I kind of learned how to quote unquote play basketball. Then you get into a structured setting and you learn kind of how to play defense and maybe how to strategically think the game. But in terms of just being exposed to situations, reading and reacting, figuring it out. And this is not just a basketball thing. This is a player development thing, which is really like instead of U.S. soccer learning from basketball, it's basketball's learning the wrong lessons from U.S. soccer, where of the truly creative players that the U.S. has produced in soccer, I don't think it's an accident that one of Clint Dempsey is the one who came from sort of outside the system because he grew up playing on dirty, barely grassed patches in Texas. And learned how to be a baller that way.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a certain degree of spontaneity that maybe is not being instilled unless you're Chino Hills and you get to have the ball all the time, like one of the Ball brothers. But the other thing the AAU circuit is doing is it's destroying young players' bodies. This is something I saw in my time with the Bucks. Is we'd get 19, 20-year-olds come in and everyone, get a medical report on everyone. And it's basically be like a front and back sort of outline of a body, and they'd circle the areas where there are problems. And the number of 19-year-olds who would come in and do a workout with us and get examined by our medical team. And got pre-arthritic knees, got arthritic ankles. 19. And it's because the AAU tournament go play 7 games across 2 days. And it's just overuse and just wearing the bodies of these kids out a little bit. And so I would actually go a different way than MJ, that's saying that actually having guys play soccer, having guys play football and play basketball is, and there's plenty of research to back this up, is probably best for both kind of the athletic longevity, but also just having the players find the game that fits them best. Have them try a bunch of stuff, have them cross train, have them learn different movement skills. I mean, I think that there's, a lot of the European players, they got great footwork because they played soccer, and there's obviously something to that.
Quickly before we let you go, it's just one of our big fans of yours. He has a soccer question for you. Why does Manchester United wait to bring in so long Xerxes and Garnacho, the two most dangerous Red Devils?
I got nothing.
Sorry, so he couldn't answer your question.
No, it's Garnacho is an interesting one. He wasn't my favorite player, but he developed over the course of last year, and it is he probably should start, but we'll see how they develop. The smart money suggests that they'll probably have a new coach in a couple months, and then we'll see. Then we'll see what's what.
That's always what happens in sports.
Well, and it's the same thing as, a new GM comes, they don't always fire the coach right away. New owner comes in, a new controlling owner comes in. Your first kind of your free hit is firing the coach. So wait till something goes bad, and then you can do that, and then the heat's off of you. And we've seen this in the NBA. We see it, across sports, where you don't want to make that move right away because you get one free one, and you don't want to waste it. Maybe it'll work, but also we know this season's not going to go great anyway. So let's fire the coach a third of the way in, and then we had to let go of the coach and start over again. So it's not my fault, but we'll be ready for next year. Self-preservation, baby. That's the name of the game.
Hey, listen, maybe you need to write a book about that.
Yeah, it's too much tea would be spilled.
That's true. I don't like tea. I don't like hot drinks, so I wouldn't be reading that book then.
the Tea Party 300 years later.
But we really appreciate the time. I know you're a very busy guy, and we'll get you on. We'd love to get you on more sooner than later. I know you're, like I said, you're very, very busy, and the basketball season's right around the corner. But we appreciate the time as always.
It's actually easier during the season because there's this little thing that actually starts tomorrow called school, which makes life easier for all of us parents because they're out of the house and sleepy when they come home. So it makes everything easier.
Daddy Dukes, Daddy part now.
That's right. All right, thanks, guys.
Mr. Anchorage Man, ladies and gentlemen, as always, as Snug loves him, and a lot of different Boston fans love him. We love him too. I mean,
Boston fans are not my biggest fans. They think I hate them.
Well, they love you. I mean, all the Boston fans that listen to the show that are on our links usually, they love you.
And former Boston fans that claim they're now Knicks fans.
That's true too, which is crap. I think it's all bull crap. But hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We can use all the fans we can get. I mean, being that we're supposedly the Mecca of basketball.
Or maybe they could hire them to be Nets fans because the Nets don't have any.
Well,
the Nets won the offseason. They got all the draft picks from Mikal Bridges. Cam Thomas is gonna get a bunch of buckets, and they're gonna go 23 and
all in the 20s and at the end of the draft. So great move. Great move. By the time they get a good pick, it'll be in the third in 2031. So good move. Great move, by the way. It was fantastic. I think Leon Rose looks like a genius on that trade, by the way, but that's just my opinion. Seth, we appreciate you.
Thanks for having me as always. Good to chat with you guys.
Seth Partnow, fantastic. Great guest tonight. Darryl Reed, always great personality. Seth Anchorage, Partnow, always great, as always, with his basketball takes. Let's bring Fish in. I mean, we got a couple of stories that we need to get into to finish up, and I want to apologize to him. It's been a long day. I'm still thinking about that Twitter account that just pisses me off. But I'm gonna blame everybody in this world and all the coldness of craziness with that Super Bowl championship hat that I have to look at right across the studio. I have to look at Speedy's Super Bowl champion hat. It makes me sick to my stomach. Ahead of the number 14 Clemson matchup with the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday, Kirby Smart defended Dabo Swinney, stating this offseason, saying that he was like Dabo in a lot of ways. He specifically was defending Dabo's comments about the transfer portal, who said it doesn't build rosters. Smart says he doesn't see the transfer portal as a roster building solution and says he would much rather keep the players he recruits and sign. Clemson was the only Power 4 program this season that did not get a 4 or 5-star transfer portal recruit. Georgia has been one of the top 10 most active schools in the transfer portal since the portal rules have been loosened during the COVID situation in 2022. I'm sorry, 2020. Dabo Swinney is a sore loser. He's a sore man. Maybe sore in the butt. Speedy, you know all about that. I have no idea why Dabo Swinney keeps talking. It doesn't, to me, make any sense. He had a chance to take over Alabama after Nick Saban steps down. Not even the Alabama Crimson Tide wanted you. And you're a guy that comes from the school. You've won a national championship. They didn't want you. They brought in a guy that never won a national championship. So it says a lot about who you are and what you compared to as a head coach in college football. As far as Kirby Smart, now I like Danny Lanning. I think he's a great coach, and I love that he is, gone back and forth with Kirby Smart, as everybody knows on this show. It's something that really fuels my fire when you hear guys like Kirby Smart or Dabo Swinney complain and cry about this portal and money that these players are making when they're making tens of millions of dollars. Now, the fact that Kirby Smart is sucking off Dabo Swinney only tells me one thing. It tells me that college football and half of these coaches are probably grabbing each other in the boys' bathroom and enjoying themselves in their spare time. The fact that these guys making all the money that they're making, the schools making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it has nothing to do with the portal. It has nothing to do with the money that they're making. It's just because the schools and their recruiting classes, they're bringing these players in that are drawing fans, drawing crowds because they're winning. Now, they're going to take the credit for that because they're good coaches. I think if you can recruit 4 and 5-star recruits, you're going to win. It doesn't matter who the head coach is. Ask Nick Saban, okay? Nick Saban coached how many schools before he took over for Alabama? He coached LSU, won a national championship there. Before that, he was where? Toledo. He won over there, and then he decided to go to LSU. You get my drift here. You got to win before you get paid, right? That's what I'm saying. Now, these players, they won their whole lives. From middle school to high school, they're the best players of their state. The best. They stood out from all the rest. That's why they're 4 and 5-star recruits. Why shouldn't they get paid? Why shouldn't they? I don't care what they do in college football. Some of these guys will never play in the NFL. Some of them will never finish their college education because they decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go into the draft, and they don't get drafted, and then they're walk-ons for these teams and never make those teams. How about that? And then they can't help their families. Then they have to go to stealing, drugs, and all the other stuff that these ex-athletes do because, hey, they can't support their families. Hey, they can't help their families out because they thought they were going to be NFL superstars. Now, these college kids have a chance to make a living playing college football and might never play in the NFL ever. But now they have a chance to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, take that money. If they never play football again, they can invest it into something and make them more money, make their families more money, invest into a business, invest into a corporation. So now these coaches, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, they're complaining that other coaches are using the portal or saying that these coaches think they're using the portal to win championships. And now they're saying, hey, you don't need the portal to win championships. They should be able to keep their players. How about maybe these players don't like you after a year? They don't want to be coached by you anymore. You're a son of a bitch. How about that? How about Dabo Swinney is a big pest, a big piece of you-know-what, and I don't want to be coached by you anymore. I'm going to go into the portal, and I'm going to go somewhere I actually enjoy. Actually make a name for myself because you're not giving me the option to be that number 2 corner, or you're not going to give me the option to be that nickel back that I want to be. How about that? But because they're butthurt that these players don't like them and that the NCAA is giving them options to do things and make money and open up the options that they never had when Johnny Manziel was playing, or other big names like Tim Tebow. Do you know how much money Tim Tebow could have made if there was a portal or if there was money to be made from NIL deals? Could you imagine what Tim Tebow would have right now? He probably owned the Broncos. I mean, seriously, the guy was more beloved than any college football player in history. Do you know how many endorsements that man would have made? Money he would have made through endorsements, sneaker deals, StubHub deals, whatever, any organization that wanted to work with him, he would have made millions and millions of dollars. But because it wasn't allowed and the NCAA wanted to pocket all the money and give it to all their coaches and give it to school kids, smart kids that are going to the school and giving them scholarships because these players are bringing in money because of the new television deals for their schools. Oh, it's okay then. It's okay. It doesn't make sense. Dabo Swinney, shut your damn mouth. Kirby Smart, shut your damn mouth. I don't want to hear you complain anymore. Kirby, you've won national championship after national championship and probably have a chance to win another national champion. Dabo Swinney, you haven't won a national championship in forever. Stop with your crybaby antics. You're going to get fired this year. Clemson's going to move on, bring in another guy that's going to be a yes man, sir, and do whatever it needs to be done to recruit players. And you're going to be sitting at home wishing you have the Alabama job.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Yeah. Dabo Swinney is definitely not getting any 4 or 5-star transfers. It explains a lot about why you're going to need to at least some level of the transfer. I'm not saying you have to rely on it. I think Kirby Smart is right about that. Like, you don't have to rely on the transfer portal, but it is important when you have these conferences becoming super conferences now, as like the ACC maybe isn't as big as the other 3, but like you still have that kind of effect you're going to need to be active with. And to do that, you have to keep these players like happy with your coaching style. And Georgia, I think, has done that to an extent. That's why Kirby Smart, I think, is a little bit of a hypocrite when he says it's not relying on the transfer portal because he's done it a lot. At the same time, though, I do think you need to be able to build a roster that way too. And Georgia's kind of been a counterculture to what you consider football now. And I think Georgia has built a good mold with their defense and their running game for years. And they finally have some other positions finally hitting. And that has to do with a lot of the way Kirby Smart has done in college football. But at the same time, you can't just say, oh, you can't rely on the transfer portal and build a roster that way, because you've done it, Kirby. You've done it for that sense of time. And NIL deals are going to help a school like Georgia, a power program, to be that way. And for you, Dabo Swinney, Clemson is going to have to evolve. You have the weakest of the 4 Power 4 conferences by far, and yet you've only been able to win it with like an 8-4 season recently. Yeah, you finished top 25 every year. Where is that going to get you, even with the expanded playoff?
Look, it's something that we haven't mentioned yet. Do you think this is a shot at Deion, Errol? Don't you think?
I think it's a little bit. I think they're digging. I think they're trying to dig, but I don't think Deion Sanders even gives a crap what they think. But
well, the transfer portal thing, Deion set a record, of course, yes, with 53 transfers for this season and 86 new players total, which is ridiculous. You know, that's like 2/3 or more of maybe 3/4 of the team roster that he's just overdoing. Now, look, we know Colorado wasn't a good program when he got there, and we understand guys were going to leave. But this is a little crazy. And to treat it like it's a business this way with kids that in their future, what I worry about isn't really, the kids making the most money. I know that's part of it, and they should be able to shop and make money. But what if this turns into this, like what it was when it was lawless in the 80s, where SMU was given that death penalty and all these sleazy Dallas, oil guys and all these billionaires were just having these kids in weird situations. They're 18, 19, 20. It's not good for them long term. Only a few of them are going to make it to the NFL, even at 5-star recruits. It's something that you worry about. And I don't think the Dion method, and we talked about it last week, he's getting money from the Saudi Arabians.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we even talking about here? This is out of control. Like, let's let people get their money, but let's not make it blood money, fellas.
On the ticket and the Truth Show, Kevin Garnett said that Giannis is the 4th best player in the Eastern Conference. Garnett said Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum are definitely better than Giannis, but didn't specify the third name. Paul Pierce fired back at Garnett, saying that Giannis is definitely better than Embiid. Pierce did add that he agrees with Garnett about Tatum being better, though, because the Celtics won a championship. Garnett says Giannis' injury history and surprising early playoff exits are a big reason why he wouldn't put him as the best player in the East. Giannis was 4th in the MVP voting this season, while Tatum was 6th. First of all, and I'm ridiculous. Giannis is better than Jayson Tatum, and I love Jayson Tatum. That is ridiculous. And as far as Jayson Tatum winning a championship, Giannis won a championship. So who cares if Jayson Tatum wasn't even the MVP of that championship. Jaylen Brown was. He wasn't even the best player on that team. Giannis, who was the best player when Giannis in Milwaukee won? Giannis was. So what are they talking about, first of all? And as far as Paul Pierce kissing Garnett's ass and Garnett kissing Paul Pierce's ass, good luck on that. I mean, both these guys. And the only reason why they have Tatum over Giannis is because he plays for the Celtics. That's why. If Giannis was playing for the Celtics, they would never say that. And they don't want the Celtic fans to hate him. But the fact that Kevin Garnett says that Giannis is the fourth best player in the Eastern Conference is ridiculous. He's the best player in the Eastern Conference. He's the best. Go look in the Western Conference. The 2 best players are Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic. The 3rd best player, I believe, in the NBA is Giannis. I mean, this guy is usually in the top 3 in the MVP voting. And he's won a championship. And he's played in multiple championships, right? I think he's been in 2.
No, the Bucks final run was the only one he had.
Oh, so okay. So whatever. The fact is, he's been one of the best players in the Eastern Conference for over 7 years. He's won how many MVPs? 2? 2 MVPs in 7 years. He's been runner-up for the MVP, four out of the last 5 times. I mean, to say that Jayson Tatum wasn't even in the top five in the voting this year, and Jayson Tatum had a great year. Giannis was voted ahead of him. It's terrible. And Joel Embiid, the crybaby, his antics last year on why he won the MVP, he shouldn't have won the MVP last year. Nikola Jokic won the MVP last year. The only reason why he won not last year, the year before. The only reason why he won the MVP is because he was complaining and crying about it all season long that he's going to get screwed out of an MVP. And he finally played not more than enough games where he can get the credit for the MVP voting. It's a joke. Joel Embiid, he's a great player. He's a sensational player. Is he better than Giannis? No, he's not. He's not better than Giannis. And it's crazy to think that. Now, if Joel Embiid consistently continues doing what he's doing, yeah, he's better than Giannis. But Giannis is, he's 31, 32 years old now. He's getting up there in age. And NBA, that's ancient. I mean, he's getting to that age of Steph Curry and LeBron James and all of them. He's not going to be as athletic as he's been over the years because of his size and his ability, and it's going to catch up to him. But Garnett saying Giannis' injury history, how about your injury history, Garnett? I mean, how many injuries have you had in the past? You didn't win a championship. You went on a Celtic team that was dynamic with Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and Rondo. You never won over there when you were over there with the Timberwolves, and you had Stephon Marbury at the prime of his career. Stop. I mean, it's ridiculous. Were you the best power forward in the league when you were at the elite level? You weren't. Tim Duncan was. But you thought you were. Paul Pierce thought he was the best 2 in the NBA when he was at the prime of his career, when he wasn't. Dwayne Wade was. So, whatever. Paul Pierce played the 3 and a 2. I mean, you can argue that even at the 3 position, he wasn't the best 3 in the NBA. It's ridiculous. First of all, I'm not going to add. Now, obviously, everybody's going to take in because Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett are Hall of Famers. So you're going to listen to them, but they're both Celtics. That's the fact. Of course they're going to take Jayson Tatum over Giannis. Of course they're going to take Joel Embiid over Giannis. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statement. Honestly, I think it doesn't. If I was Giannis, I would say something. Giannis is a cool, collective guy. He's not going to say anything. He's going to be professional about it. But that would piss me off after winning multiple MVPs, been up for MVP multiple times, and winning an NBA championship with garbage, with nothing. Honestly, nothing. Chris Middleton? Drew Holiday was a good player. He's a good player. He's not an elite point guard in the NBA.
Knicks legend Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis? Who did you win with? You didn't have another superstar next to you. He won a championship with him, the lonesome dove, as a superstar on his team. And you're not going to give him any credit for that? Get the hell out of here. Garnett, go sit on it. You and your podcast, garbage podcast. It's a ridiculous statement. Stupid.
Yeah.
Dumb.
There's a clear evidence that both these two guys hate the Milwaukee Bucks between this comment and then Paul Pierce's 6 years ago saying, "Oh, the series is over," when the Celtics put up 1-0 on the Bucks, and then the Celtics lost 4 straight games after that.
It's a dumb statement.
And the Bucks ended up going to the Eastern Conference Finals that year before losing to Toronto. And again, it's the same thing we were discussing when we were talking about the Team USA things. Name me, besides shooting, name me something Jayson Tatum does definitively better than Giannis, for one thing. Yes, they're both great defenders. Maybe some years Tatum's a better defender, but it's not definitive. It fluctuates back and forth, and Giannis is longer and more versatile. Who would you take right now?
Who would you take right now? Straight up. Joel Embiid, Jayson Tatum, Giannis, all in order. Give me your order.
Yeah, I would do Giannis, Embiid, then Tatum in that order. Because versatility has to be factored in for Giannis, too. He could play every position.
What are they trying to sell here? Yeah. You think New Yorkers or nobody knows basketball? Come on, guys. You really think we're that dumb to think that you believe that you would take Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum over Giannis Antetokounmpo? That is the most ridiculous statement. You go to 10 GMs in the NBA right now, and they look at you and laugh at you.
Yeah.
They laugh at you.
And your top 3 that you listed are the only 3 players that could do that. Could line up at all 5 positions and play well at that level. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis. Those are the only 3 players that could do it. I know Giannis has had issues with free throws. I know how Giannis
Jayson Tatum doesn't have injury-prone background. Joel Embiid doesn't have an injury-prone background.
This is worse than Giannis.
And you're gonna take Joel Embiid over Giannis? That is ridiculous. Joel Embiid has never ever taken his team to an Eastern Conference Final. Do you know he's the only MVP in history of the NBA, big NBA, top 5, at the 5 position to never take his team to an NBA Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals? He's the only player in NBA history? Come on. And you're going to take Joel Embiid over him, who's taken his team to a championship with him as the lonesome star on his team? But what a ridiculous statement.
Yeah. And Anchorage Man even said it too. When he was on, Jayson Tatum didn't have to do as much because they have so much other wing depth. They have so much other talent around him. Jaylen Brown is a top 15 player. You have Derek White and Drew Holiday, who are both top point guards. They have enough guys to make that kind of thing work. The best player that Giannis has played with was probably Middleton, who was maybe top 25, but not anything more than that. And even that was a stretch. That's who your best player that on that championship team you're playing with. Drew Holiday's a good point guard. Yeah, Giannis was the first of that wave to lay all these good 2s and 3s next tier of stars to make it work, but they weren't Jaylen Brown level good. And the Celtics won a championship with that kind of thing is crazy. And it's just the fact that the versatility and athleticism alone, you don't get that kind of thing in the league.
And those 2 guys had to play together to win a championship. I rest my case. Fish, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Listen, isn't it odd? Well, it's not odd that KG's hating on someone. He's probably the biggest hater outside of Kendrick Lamar going right now at this point.
Yeah, you're probably right.
For real. But I'll say this. He was Giannis when he came out of high school. He was the unicorn that was 6'10", 6'11", could shoot it from just inside three, which was a big deal back then. Now everyone, you have to be a three-point shooter. And you know he would have if he played today. Don't you just think he wished he could have gone against Giannis and proved that he was better? Even though I don't know if he was.
He's not.
I don't know if he was. He's not as fast. He's not as big. Doesn't dribble as well.
No.
But, you know, he did those other things. He was the biggest, you know, smack talker maybe the NBA has ever seen. He would intimidate people in ways that had nothing to do with the game, with, you know, the actual game. And he became the most cagey of the veterans as he got older when he lost his athleticism. I don't know if it's going to go as well for Giannis as he gets older without the shot that KG had. So I don't know. Right now we look at the careers and it looks like Giannis, this is just hating on someone who's better than him at the same position, arguably. And that's what I see it. You know, that's the way I see it. But long term, he's got when he loses that athleticism. Look, he may never lose enough that it even matters because he's such a freak athletically that even if he doesn't move as fast, he's still going to be better than 95% of everybody out there, right? But he doesn't shoot it. And in basketball, as you know, guys that can't shoot it don't last when their athleticism goes. So I don't know if we're going to say he's better when it's all said and done for Giannis. But you're not wrong. He had to team up. He had a lot of those Timberwolves teams very similar to Embiid. Didn't get it. I think they got to the Western Conference Finals once with Garnett, and that was it. So I see a lot of similarities. I see jealousy, and I say just a hater hating, man.
All right. Scoops, you have any thoughts to it?
Yeah, just picking up off Fish, you know, he's hating. You know, I mean, when we already said it, Kevin Garnett has never led a team, never led a team to an NBA Finals. You know, of course, he had that 2008 championship, but that was, of course, look at the guys that he had around him. Look at the coach that he had. You know, we're looking at Giannis. You know, Giannis, of course, personally, and you guys, of course, said it too. Personally, Giannis is the best big man in the league. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, not in the league, in the East. I'm sorry, he's not better than Jokic, but personally, Giannis is the best big man when it comes to the East. And there's no really debate about it, personally. So no one moves like him. No one handles the ball. No one has the speed like him at his size. You know, Joel Embiid, he has really good stats. Joel Embiid puts great stats up. But to say he's better than him, Kevin Garnett, I mean, I do think Kevin Garnett is a funny dude. I think some of the clips that he has on his podcast, some of his takes are just straight up funny. I don't really agree with them. They're just funny to laugh at. And you listen and you're like, look at the crap that he said just now. But really, this is just coming down to like class grade A hating. You know, I don't agree with it one bit.
I don't think anybody agrees with him. And honestly, if you know basketball and you understand how all these guys are compared to one another, Giannis has been the most successful big man right now in the last 7-8 years. And to say that you would take Jayson Tatum, who, by the way, won his first championship and he wasn't even the MVP, or Joel Embiid, who's never even played in the Eastern Conference Finals, over a guy that won a championship as the lonesome star of his team, only tells me that you don't know basketball as much as you think that you do. I mean, I would love to hear what Tim Hardaway thought about that take. I mean, I think Tim would probably laugh at it and think that he's out of his damn friggin' mind. And I haven't even asked Tim Hardaway, but I would love to hear what he thought about Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce saying this, because Timmy, who follows basketball and is working in the basketball industry, would probably tell you they're both on drugs or lost their minds if they think that that you would take Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum right now over arguably the best big man in the league. Even in the league, some people could argue Nikola Jokic has been a dominant force, but Giannis has been pretty damn good too. So, I mean, Nikola Jokic plays with two other superstars on his roster. I mean, who is Giannis playing? I mean, Dame is on the team, but was he? I mean, this year
all the time.
Dame couldn't stay healthy. Giannis couldn't be healthy this year. Let's see Giannis play with Dame at full strength this year and almost a full season. Then we'll see Because a lot of people, just like we just had Seth on, Seth said this could be a different team this year if they play at full strength this year with those two guys. We'll see. It's just a matter of time to find out. Magic Johnson took shots at Anthony Edwards' comments, saying that he wouldn't respond to a guy that's never won a championship. He added that he never even won a college or high school championship, nevertheless, reaching the finals at any level. Edwards responded that Kobe is the only player that has won a championship as a super young player, which is wrong because Magic won a championship in his first and third year in the NBA. Edwards also said he is in no rush to win a championship and knows his day will come. Magic was a 12-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA player, 5-time NBA champion, and is one of only 7 players in NBA history with over 10,000 assists. First of all, Anthony Edwards says he's in no rush. What the hell is that? You're in no rush to win a championship? Your time will come? Let's ask Karl Malone and John Stockton that. I mean, let's go back. Let's go to Charles Barkley and ask him that. I don't know. Steve Nash, another one. Let's ask him. 2-time NBA MVP. Let's ask him. Anthony, you've never even won an MVP. You're going to come out there and say that you're in no rush? You had a chance to win a championship this year. This was your best chance to win a championship this year. No question. Because I think if they matched up against the Celtics, they match up very well against the Celtics. But they couldn't even beat the lonely Dallas Mavericks. You're in no rush, huh? Kobe Bryant was the only super young player. Interesting statement when Magic Johnson won a championship in his first year. He also won a national championship with Michigan State. I think Magic Johnson has a good gripe on this. Taking shots at him that he's never won a championship at any level, stating that Anthony Edwards is not a championship player. Michael Jordan was a championship player. He won a national championship with North Carolina. And he was the player. With James Worthy on the team, a Hall of Famer too. He was the best player on that team. Michael Jordan was. Anthony Edwards really needs to go dig deep. He really needs to look at the past and understand the NBA for what it was. I think Tim Hardaway said it really, really good last week. He says, you're a young boy playing in a man's league. And when you state something like that, when you have guys like Magic Johnson, you have guys of that magnitude coming out, and there are other guys, Isaiah Thomas being another one, coming out and sticking up for one another, stating that there was no athletes besides Michael Jordan in the 90s. It only says one thing about Anthony Edwards. Were you watching basketball in the 90s? Were you even a basketball fan? Were you just playing football? Because, I mean, the stories coming out of the NBA draft when you were drafted at 1, if you remember, was Anthony Edwards was unsure if he wanted to play in the NBA. He wanted to be an NFL player. He was unsure that he was going to stick with basketball. I think everybody remembers that. Now, let me ask you a question, Anthony, and I don't know you personally, and seem like a cool guy, down to earth, pretty funny guy. If you even come close to the player Magic Johnson was or Larry Bird was, okay, and you go to the Hall of Fame, and you stand there in front of your peers, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, your peers in the future, and this story comes up again, how would you approach it as a man, not as a boy, in front of your peers that are in the Hall of Fame? That's what I want to know. How are you going to stand in front of Magic Johnson, who'll probably be 78, 80 years old, and Larry Bird, if they're both still alive, sitting up there and speaking and saying, you know, your farewell to the NBA and, you know, and all the great things that you did. How are you going to approach that when somebody asks you a question? Did you really mean that statement? Are you sorry for making that statement? Because to me, that might go down as one of the worst takes in NBA history an NBA player's ever had. To say that and to come out in the way you came out as a professional athlete against, with two of the greatest basketball players, stating that you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and you never even won in any objective of a facet from the high school era to your college era, and you're going to attack me when I won, when I was an elite player like you were when I came out of the draft. I don't know how he's going to live this up if he doesn't win a championship. And if he doesn't win a championship, boy, oh boy, will Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas have a gripe on him going to the Hall of Fame in the future.
Yeah, even if, regardless of if he gets to the Hall of Fame or not, even if he just wins a championship in general, like, it's going to be looked at for a while, because all these guys that have won championships are coming out and say, oh, winning a championship back then didn't require skill because there was no athleticism back then. When you're looking at this this video that Fish is posting too, look at those behind the back passes, look at those athleticism on the dribbles too. Like, that kind of thing still takes athleticism. Yeah, I know the quote unquote athletes are not like built today like they are, like, okay, fine, but if Magic Johnson and these guys had access to these modern training, like, I'm sure they'd have that. You have to factor in body types when judging these kinds of things, that these games could transition. And like Anchorage Man was saying too, like, there are some 90s players that would transition their games, their skill sets well into today's game. And that kind of thing Anthony Edwards has to appreciate, especially when you're judging. Like, if he becomes the great player that he is, like, he's going to be always compared to those kinds of guys and always allegedly respected by those guys. Like Tim Hardaway was saying last week, there's a lot of modern players that he has appreciating for. Like, he doesn't have to be petty of just being the 90s guy all the time, because he has respect for the game for what it is. And Anthony Edwards clearly does not have that kind of thing for these past players. And now Magic Johnson's not going to be the only one. There's going to be a bigger, even more ripple effect. It started with Isaiah Thomas, and who says he's going to be the last one either?
There's a lot of revisionist history about Kobe.
I mean, you don't even take a breath. Maybe that's why you keep going. You got a hairball in your mouth?
Yeah,
Jesus.
Kobe wasn't that guy when he was younger. We remember that first year he didn't really do anything, and then he developed, but he was Robin to Shaq's Batman. It wasn't like he took over a team and brought them all the way. Like Magic really revitalized that team. We all remember Kareem was hurt during that finals, and as a rookie, he was able to have like some crazy triple-double, playing center when, he was a taller point guard, but he wasn't a center. And he did that as a rookie. I mean, that's doing it on the highest possible level against grown men. And Anthony Edwards thinks he has any leg to stand on in this argument against a guy like that. And how do you penalize a guy like Magic for not being around with 40, because he was 40 years ago, when all these innovations that have happened to the game? The first time, for example, a small one that's not so small if you think about it, the first time I ever saw someone do the Euro step was Manu Ginobili in the Olympics. And then it became part of every single person. Dwayne Wade started doing it, and every single person has the Euro step in their bag. And then we got the move like James Harden with the step back to get open on the three. Everyone now can do stuff like that. Don't you think Magic Johnson would be doing stuff like that too if there was this knowledge of all this creativity over the last 40 years that was built on the backs of guys like Magic, guys like
traveling, because that's what all these players do now. They travel.
A lot of traveling from James Harden.
Yes, a lot of them. LeBron James do. I think they've brought a new style of basketball into the game, which Tim Hardaway said it very best. He said, now there's traveling and they allow that. So they might as well be able to they don't even have to dribble the ball anymore. They might as well just, run to the hole and jam the ball, because that's what they're doing. It's just horrible.
It's just the revisionist history bothers me, though. I hate it's, as a history teacher, you get like people go, oh, George Washington was a bad person. And I go, are you guys kidding me right now? He grew up in a time that was really messed up. But that's what everyone in his society had to do. And he was the best of that society. You're going to hate on every single person that was alive 300 years ago in more than half of the country? No, You got to remember the good, the bad of every single person. We don't forget it. We don't forgive it. But at the same time, you don't place blame with today's values or today's knowledge, for example, with basketball on what happened in the past. Magic Johnson would kick Anthony Edwards' ass if they were playing together against each other right now.
Of course.
He might get dunked on a couple of times by Anthony Edwards, but Magic's winning a series easy against that dude.
Yeah, so I agree with the sense that, Jordan was a dominant player. Of course, he was the most dominant player, the most skillful player. And it almost looked to the sense that no player truthfully had a slight chance. No player had a candle, could hold a candle to Jordan at that time. Teams celebrated outperforming or beating Michael Jordan in a regular season game like it was a finals win. So, yes, he was so dominant. He was a dominant player, but I mean, Magic Johnson should, of course, rightfully so, take offense to that. I mean, everyone wants to be a legend. Everybody grows up wanting to play the game of basketball. Once you get to there, you want to be a legend. You want to be the greatest of all time. So right now, of course, Magic being looked on as one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest point guard of all time, to get talked down to by a kid that's never won a national title, never won an NBA title, got carried to a gold medal, didn't even actually play a majority of that gold medal series, but I would get upset too. And personally, I kind of like the way that Magic Johnson handled it. He didn't come off like this sort of, I don't know, I guess like an a-hole in a way. He didn't come off very hostile. He didn't come off like he was trying to talk down to the kid. He just kind of stated like, this is who I am. This is who you are. Know your role. Shut your mouth. That's it.
I agree with you. I think Magic Johnson handled it well, but I think in the long run, Magic Johnson called him a young boy. Tim Hardaway called him a young boy. They're calling him a boy. And I want to know what he is going to say because he's on his way to going to the Hall of Fame. I want to know with his speech, if somebody brings this up to him and he goes back, from what he said at the age of 22, how he's going to react to this as a man. Because right now he looks like a fool. And when you have these older players like Tim Hardaway Tim Hardaway's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest point guards to ever play in the NBA, top 10 NBA in history. Anthony Edwards is not even a top 5 player right now in the league. I mean, you could argue that he is, but he's not even. So I don't know. I think he's out of his mind. I think he's lost it. And it's great that he loves Kobe Bryant. It's great that he loves Michael Jordan, and he's compared to Michael Jordan, but he's not Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan, if he went to a Western Conference Finals, he wouldn't have lost against the Dallas Mavericks. He just wouldn't. So, I mean, you didn't show up in the most important games, and you didn't put your team on your back when your team needed you the most. Michael Jordan did. Magic Johnson did. Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You remember that? In the first championship they ever won, Kareem went down in the finals. They needed Magic Johnson to defend the 5 in game number, I think it was game 7. Magic Johnson played game number 7 as a rookie and was the best player in that game. I rest my case. Anthony Edwards did not do that. Magic Johnson took over for one of the greatest offensive players in NBA history and put up the numbers that he needed to win a championship. Anthony Edwards couldn't even get his team to the finals. There's no comparison anywhere come close to Magic Johnson. So it was terrible. It's a terrible statement by, I think, one of the best basketball players in the NBA. Hopefully he learns from it. I doubt it. Jaylen Brown hasn't learned from it. I mean, I don't think Jayson Tatum's going to learn from what he said. And I'm looking forward to seeing Team USA basketball in 4 years because if it's anything that we saw in this tournament, Team USA doesn't win. They don't win the Olympics. They don't get the gold medal in 4 years. I can't see it.
Keith says, keep Magic played the 5 offensively, 42 points. He scored one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
Yep. Thank you to Darryl Reed. He was fantastic. Thank you to him for joining us. I know he's a busy guy. He's on his whole fruit diet.
Yes.
2 days. I
for
thought
now.
He was doing it. I thought he was doing it for like months. This guy says to do it for 2 days. That's
2 down.
That was so funny.
Yes. Thank you to Seth, Anchorage man part now, for joining us. I know he's busy getting ready for the NBA season. He works in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm sure his thoughts to that statement with Tatum and Garnett didn't really roll. That's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back on Thursday. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.